Hi, everyone, and welcome to Successful Mantras, where we speak with women who are making an impact on the world around us by designing a life on their own terms. Today, we have with us Poornima Dore, who has straddled many different worlds, the corporate world working with the Tata Group and then the Tata Trusts for many years. As an author, writing about regional economic diversity, and finally, as an expert on social finance. She teaches a course at XLRI and also advises leaders on how to allocate capital towards long term social impact. Her exposure ranges from villages, businesses to boardrooms, and this has made her a strong advocate of harnessing risk capital for sustainable growth and development. She's also an avid musician. She is a trained Carnatic classical vocalist who has also played the drums with the band Bodhi Tree in the past. Purnima, I'm truly excited to speak to you. Welcome.
Hello, Pia. Thank you so much for having me here.
Amazing. And Purnima, when you and I were talking earlier, and I also spoke about that a little bit in the introduction, uh, we spoke about how you have made many pivots in your life. You have kind of designed a life truly on your terms. And I think that's a great place to start a conversation. So maybe tell us a little bit about how, you started off in your career and what was that point where you decided to make a pivot, a change? And what were some of those motivations? And what steps did you take to get to the next step in your life?
Thank you so much, Pia. I think calling it design would sound like one has really crafted it, but I think a lot has happened, been incidental and a function of different factors, and even how you get inspired or directed at different points in time. So I'm an economics graduate from LSR. Then I did my MBA, and everybody was studying for their MBA exams, and I got uh, motivated to do that, looking at some of my very hardworking friends around. And so the MBA happened. I went to XLRI, and then I joined the Tata Group from campus as part of the Tata Administrative Services program. And it's been a great experience where I got to move across different group companies and across functions. And I think the TAS gives you a very great exposure and an opportunity to work with leaders across sectors and functions. And Tata Capital was where I spent a fair amount of time looking at how capital could solve for both the SME, infra, and corporate businesses. That made me travel a lot, Pia, at that time. And I was, I think, enjoying my work. And one of the pivots happened during that time where I was doing some very, very exciting deals. And we had a great team. I had the opportunity to learn so much there. And while I would travel, I would see how labor and capital would interplay at the sites, at the work sites. So, for example, I remember one time when we were doing a deal with one of the wheel rim manufacturers in North India, and we were putting together the deal there about where our funding would come in by way of convertible bonds and debentures. And at that time, it was about how the business would grow from to the next level of both output, productivity, etc. And I saw the company taking a call where it was going in for an acquisition, and it would also therefore impact jobs around in the economy, in the local economy, while creating export products as well as supply chain for other businesses. So that showed me clearly how the world of business is contributing to growth. And it also triggered questions in my mind. What does this mean for local employment? What does this mean for, better quality life for the people who live around this region? I also saw Chandigarh as a place having multiple sectors contributing to it. There was pharma, there was uh, raw end products for FMCG getting packaged. So, how do these different sectors decide, or the leaders decide to co-locate their firms in places like these? And
Mm,
Chandigarh is just one example. I think I got to travel to so many such hubs pan India by virtue of my work. And That time, so we were doing these great deals, we were making the headlines, and all of that was very, very heady. At the same time, I was having questions in my mind about, can capital do something more about the ecosystem? Do I need to learn more about that? And so, being somebody who's been trained in economics, how do I apply some of those principles to the overall growth story? Can I
Right.
do more of that? And in that quest, I pivoted from Tata Capital to what ended up being a very interesting role at the Tata Trusts. And it didn't happen overnight. I had to first think about, what is it that I am looking for from a work standpoint, because my current role is ticking so many boxes for me. I'm loving it, I'm enjoying my time with the team.
Right.
And where can I do the kind of thing that I'm looking at? And I did have a couple of conversations with my then boss also, that my end goal someday is to do something where business meets social
Mm.
impact. And on our one-on-ones, he would ask me that, is this meeting what you would like? And I learned honestly a lot about how to have conversations during appraisal time from the conversations I had with him, because he made it possible for me to also articulate my dreams, that if I get a role like this, I may actually move. But currently these things are what are keeping me excited. So it
Mm.
took almost a year and a half within the Tata ecosystem for this transition to happen, where I actually looked out. I figured out that the Tata Trust would be an interesting place to do this kind of work. It was non-traditional, and there had been no precedent of a TAS person moving from a Tata Capital to a Tata Trust. And so, for anybody who's part of a large business conglomerate, my suggestion would be that if you are looking for certain kinds of work, look at the ecosystem within. And even if there is no precedent of someone moving into the kind of role that you are looking at, please have those conversations and stay at it, because you may find allies in places where you least expected it. And
Right.
if you have the patience to stay through the course, it is possible that a role that you are interested in may materialize. So it was with a complete clean slate then, from a ready, well-baked role at Tata Capital, that I then moved to the Tata Trust without having a JD in hand or a
Mm.
clear picture of what the
Wow.
role would be. But I think what has helped me in the course, Pia, has been that as a result of this move, each of the roles that I have taken have ended up being kind of blue sky roles, where it was not very well structured. I had to go in and understand the lay of the land and figure out how to put structure to it. And increasingly over time, I've gotten better with dealing with ambiguity, a little better at, joining the dots, getting stakeholder buy-in for things which are not, so straightforward. So one of my first roles there was to look at a strategy mapping of what the Tata Trusts were doing. So being the only MBA in a organization that is focused on investments for social development, I was able to learn a lot from people who were across different sectors, and also then add that to the kitty of who I became. So each of these steps has been a little bit of stepping into the unknown. This was one example of those.
Yeah.
And I have many more such examples where I've had to, take a call in this nature. But I think what my learning, if I had to generalize, would be that to speak to stakeholders to see if there is something in the ecosystem that matches what you're looking for, and sometimes to take that leap of faith.
Yeah, and listening to you, it just makes me feel that it's these are hard things, right? You make it sound easy that you made this change and you pivoted, and you said that there was a lot of there was a lot of steps that you had to take on your own, or there was a path that wasn't fully laid out for you. So you had to kind of structure what you were going to do in some of these roles. But what has been the impact of doing that for you in your life, right? Like, why should anybody, I'm just thinking, if somebody listening to a conversation today is at crossroads and thinking that, okay, I'm in this role, perhaps they're happy, maybe they're not, and they want to make a change, but it's overwhelming. And especially if you're in a role which is generally comfortable, you don't really have any big problems, but you're not feeling fulfilled. So why is it important to to make this change, and why was it important for you, and how has that change impacted your life today?
So I'll start with the latter part of what it has meant. I think it has allowed me to explore some very different spaces and get to meet a lot of interesting people. I think that is one big plus of this journey, where I've met people across government, civil society, panchayat leaders, CEOs, and multilateral folks. So, meeting a very different cohort of people, I think, teaches you a lot about the world. It talks to you about different business models and ways of, having an impact, and it expands your worldview, which helps you choose better. The second thing which these choices have meant is a lot of travel. So, if there's anything I would recommend, it would be please embrace opportunities to travel, to work out of locations which are, non-traditional, to travel to, remote parts. Don't hold yourself back because it will feel uncomfortable or it's unknown. And especially for women, safety. I think that you need to take calculated risks.
Yeah, of
I would
course.
not say, be completely um, lost to the world in the choices that you are making. Don't give up something meaningful, up in the air. But please take. But I think some of these have ended up being calculated risks, where for example, I think one of the transitions that happened in life was when we moved from Bombay to Jamshedpur. So my husband got a role with the Tata Steel, and he now leads the Tata Steel Foundation. And that role meant that we would need to relocate from Bombay to Jamshedpur, and our daughter was very small. Now, how to make that role work for me, because mine was a multi-stakeholder uh, engagement job. So with a small child, how do you make that work, was a learning for me, and was also a space where I had to necessarily step out of my comfort zone and plan things in a way that, and it can be very overwhelming because, you are at the end of the day wanting the best for your family. You want the best for your spouse and their role. You also want to be present in every way that you can from the on the access at a work on the work front that you have already catalyzed. So one of the things which I did was, I was able to garner a fair amount of family support, and I'm very grateful for that. But as a strategy, one of the things I did was I got a full-time nanny, and then I would travel with her and my daughter together in the initial 18 months phase. So I made sure that I was present in some of these places. In hindsight, I think if I had not been present in 20% of those occasions, it would have been okay. So I think I was a little hard on myself at the time. But I was this model of, making sure that my daughter was with me and investing in some help, I think helped me stay in the game. I was trying something different. There were folks at home also who sometimes felt that, why are you doing this? And is this the best for you, for your child? And I think everybody's balance is different, and they need to find their own answers. My answers may be different from what it may be for somebody else. But I'm glad that I took that chance of, investing in the kind of help I wanted, and sometimes not listening to everybody about the various opinions of what it means to be a good mom. And today, I think my daughter is somebody who is actually, she enjoys travel a lot because she has been used to it from day one. She enjoys going to new places. She understands the concept of the airport, the travel, all of that. She knows what, this world is like. And I think it's good for her as she's growing up into a world where we want women to be more independent and
Right.
we want to be doing more of these things.
Mm.
So, so those are some of these choices that you have to make when you are, they are hard choices. So a role that needs you to be in many places is a hard role to take. But
Yes.
I also think it has expanded my worldview. And in hindsight, I think it has been good for my family
Mm.
because, my daughter will hopefully grow up into a world where she will not feel so scared to step up, and she'll know that, how different regions behave. I love that subject as an area of subject matter interest, and it's great for me to, think that I'm seeding some of that in the next generation.
No, that's really amazing to hear, Poornima. And there are a couple of things. Of course, you're sharing so many insights, and a couple of things really jumped out at me. And one was you have been able to make these pivots, or embraced different chapters in your life because you had that awareness. So you kind of knew that, okay, now I want to, like you said, you were doing a specific part of the business, and you knew that you wanted to use capital towards social good. So, and how did you get these, moments of awareness in your life? Like, because I think that clarity is something that a lot of us don't have. And that's why we hesitate in making those changes, because you're not sure if that is really the way you want to go. But once you know this is the path that I want to embrace, I think then dealing with a lot of challenges that you spoke about, whether it's family or opposition from, well-wishers who think that we are not probably taking the right path, becomes a lot more easier when we have that clarity. So, share with us what were maybe some practical tips and tools that you used to get that clarity, that this I'm 100% sure that even though I'm in a job that I don't really have a problem with, and I'm kind of happy and comfortable, but I still need to make this change for myself. How did you get to that place of clarity?
Um, Writing down, I think writing is something I have always found very therapeutic. I enjoy writing, and I think putting thoughts to paper helps me get clarity and make sense of what's happening around me. I do it a lot at work also, and I find, which is what has then translated into a book. I don't think I thought I would go that route, but doing putting thoughts to paper is one of my ways of making sense of what's going on. So journaling, I think, has been a very important part of what I do. It's not like I have a very structured time for it, or like I do it every day. And some people say at 5:30 in the morning you have to write one page. I don't do any of that. But what I do is that if I'm feeling confused about something, or if I feel there's a lot going on in my mind, that general feeling of there's so much, that those are times when I think I just decide to put my pen to paper, and next half an hour let me just, so I'll start my sentence with what is bothering me today. Why am I feeling a little off? Or today I'm feeling great because, and then I'll write. So it doesn't have to be this erudite piece of writing or this great poetry that's going to spout, or this very, very structured action plan.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's just about putting your thoughts out on paper, because then when you see it in writing, some things are not worth worrying about, so you can just cancel it out, saying this was ridiculous, why am I even bothered about it? So it's like throwing it into the trash can by just writing it down and striking it out. And sometimes some of the things you write make you be very clear that, aha, so this is what is I need to be doing, or this is the part that I need to embrace. So,
Mhm.
for example, I had done kind of a visioning exercise with myself some years back, where two things came to me very clearly. I want development economics to be part of my life. Whatever role, whichever, it may sound a little bit of nerdy, it may sound slightly nerdy, but I want development economics to be part of my life. I love the subject a lot. I love the area or the issues that it tries to solve. The other more exciting thing which came in that was I need music to be a part of my life, that I will feel happy and fulfilled if it's there. So when that happened, what I did was to take some help to find out a good teacher. And so in Bombay, during my time when I was living there, I actually connected with my guru teacher, Alamelu Mani, who happens to be the singer Hariharan's mother.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I've had the fortune to have her as my guru. And so, but I was also traveling. So when do you then find time for class? All those questions. She was also flexible, and we arrived at a 7 a.m. morning class schedule where I would go to her house in the morning. She would make coffee, we would drink coffee, chat a little bit, do a 1 hour class, and then I would go to office twice a week on days when I was not traveling. That set me up for days at work. Can you imagine a day at work where you have a song in your head? The banalities of certain meetings don't bother you so much when you are in that zone. So
Yeah.
I really discovered that embracing some of these things that are core to who I am and which I enjoy a lot, I need to find a way, it doesn't have to be that I'm of this performing artist to
Yeah.
be
Right.
have music in my life. So finding, I think taking out to find out, to identify some of these things, and 2, 3 small steps which help to bring them into your life, I think makes it much easier to, you know, feel more complete in this journey.
Yeah. And I mean, it can be intimidating, right? Because in a sense, you are starting from scratch or building from the ground up. But I think what we don't realize, and what your example clearly illustrates, is that even though you might be doing something different, but what you have learned in the past, or the skills that you've accumulated by doing what you've done in the past, make what you're doing next so much easier, right? And I think it's so cliched when we say this, but it is so important to figure out what is it that really drives you. And because it makes a lot of difference to the quality of work that you do, the excellence that you can achieve in doing that. I don't think it comes till you're really passionate. And again, I don't want to sound cliched, but I think that drive that comes in doing something that you're truly driven by is different. And your example clearly underscores that as well. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that, Poornima. Yeah.
Yeah. If I can add one more thing,
Yes, sure, please go ahead.
yeah, I think sometimes when we are taking these steps, what also holds us back is not knowing where it's going to land and whether it's going to work out.
Right.
And that stepping into the unknown is scary. It is scary for everybody. And I think I have realized over time that it's not just a couple of us who find it scary, but I think everybody finds stepping into the unknown at whatever age very hard to do. I think people, when they're retiring, they find after an illustrious career, that is a kind of stepping into the unknown, where the routine you were used to goes away completely, and how do you then reinvent and rediscover yourself? That is equally hard. So let us not pretend that it is easy. You know, that is the first part, is agreeing that these stepping into the unknown kind of choices are hard. And given that, it means, I think, renegotiating our relationship with risk, because fundamentally this is about taking risk. This is about stepping out there. And I think since women have been over the years conditioned to be played to take the safer options, because we are supposed to be that anchor to whom everyone else comes to for safety, right? Everyone else goes out, fight their battles, and then you come home to your mom, you come home to the feminine figure for comfort, safety, stability. We are meant to embody all of that. So for us to be that person, or to be destabilizing the boat, it feels conflicting. And that is why I think I've come to realize is that's why it is hard, because we feel that we are supposed to be the stable one in the whole relationship or in the family or in the ecosystem. And if we want to rock the boat, then what happens? So I think us renegotiating our own relationship with risk, helping the people around us to embrace that also, and to believe that we'll all be okay with these changes. And second is, I think a lot of people join us when we are taking some of these steps. We find allies, as I mentioned. It could be leaders who suddenly see that what we're doing is meaningful and want to, bring, loop us into what they're doing. It could be team members who see that spark and feel that this is in alignment with what I want to do and come on board. I think I have benefited a lot from finding people in my ecosystem who are like-minded, thoughtful, because these issues of growth, equity, business growth alongside social impact, these are hard things to crack. These are not one of those things where okay, let me find this startup that is going to give me 2x revenue and 5x time, and it's an easy business model, and let me go crack it. That neither is that easy. But these are even more complex, because you're trying to solve for things like poverty, unemployment. They can feel hard and heavy. So you have to really, I think, find your kinship, your ecosystem to do these things. And you
Yeah.
have to find ways to create a lot of energy for yourself and each other.
Yeah.
And then I think renegotiating your relationship with risk in any of these choices
Yeah.
uh, is important, where we tell ourselves continuously that, that the risk of the mundane and the boring is going to be harder to deal with than this risk, which is actually, towards moving something exciting and interesting.
Yeah. That's yeah, I'm so glad you shared that. And I'm also glad that you spelled out the fact that this is hard, right? A lot of times, when we are looking for a new pathway in our lives, and, we spoke about passion and drive, we kind of think that this, once you discover that, it's just going to be, easy and simple. But of course, it doesn't, it doesn't, we have to consider the fact that the hard work and the actual hours that you have to put in, or even like you said that this is tough work, and it takes a toll on you mentally sometimes, because it's change, and change is never very comfortable. Purnimas, for all the naysayers out there who told you don't do this or gave you an advice on how your life should progress, can you paint us a picture of what your life looks like right now?
Okay.
That would be fun.
Yeah, no, I think this one is also more for all anybody who's listening, who has had people who,
Yes. Yeah.
tell you about the things that you can't do or you shouldn't
Right.
do. And, I think everybody hears some of that, even from the people who are
Yes.
well-wishers and, want the best for you. So let me paint a couple. You asked me what my life looks like, and let me paint a couple of visuals for you. One is of me giving my final PhD dissertation talk, the presentation, when I was 7 months pregnant. So my daughter was at that time due, and I think I conceived towards the end of my PhD, and there was a choice about whether to go ahead with it or not, and these things happen, right? Life happens alongside the big
Course.
plans.
Yes.
So decided to go ahead with it. And so what ended up happening is that my daughter got delivered and my final convocation happened within like, a month of each other. I'm grateful to God for giving me semi-decent health during that time. But yeah, I think for many it would be, why would one do that, right? Second visual I would like to park is a time where I took my daughter and for a swim in my car. And while I was driving, I realized that 5 years ago, I would not have thought any of these things would be happening. I learned to drive only after I was 35. I had learned to drive before actually, but I think I got back to driving properly later.
Right.
I did not know how to swim properly. And it was towards the time when work and PhD, etc., were all happening. My back started giving me a lot of trouble. And so when I went to the doctor said, um, you need to drop something because your back is ending up taking the load. And then I spoke to his assistant that Dr. Saab is saying that I have to drop some of these things. I can't drop the balls that are in my hand. So give me a better solution. And so the attendant, he actually said, madam, you should try swimming
Mm.
because swimming will strengthen your back. Then you can balance all these other things. So it was the his assistant in the waiting area who gave me the best suggestion at that time.
Mhm.
And so then I went back to swimming and started, self learning and practicing during that time. And yeah, having a child or being a mom was something which had not been in the radar, and then it did happen. And so when I was driving and taking my child for a swim, I felt none of these three things would have been part of my life at
Yeah.
one point in time. But yeah, now they were. So you never know, what's going to come your way, and which are some of those challenges that you are going to get thrown at you, and some of them, work out very interestingly. The third visual I will give you, Pia, and we can close with this, was at the Tata Literature Live Festival, where I had the opportunity to talk about my book. And a lady came to me later who said that, were you that girl in the presentation? And this was Bacchi Karkaria, who is the noted journalist. whose work I have followed for so many years.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah,
Her to recognize me and come and tell me that she liked what I did was such a beautiful high.
of course.
These are things which are not never in the script,
Right.
which you
Yeah.
never think will be part of your life, and nobody can tell you that that can also be an outcome.
Right. Yes.
So we don't know what the outcomes will be. I think I'm slowly beginning to learn and embrace this fact that we have to take our steps and let some of the things play out, some good, some bad. Not everything will work out the way we want out to, but some of the outsized returns can really blow us away.
Super. This was such an insightful conversation, Purnima, and I really hope that people who are listening to us today and who are thinking about, making some of those bold steps in their life are inspired to do that today. Because truly, from the first time that we spoke, I truly found what you've shared very inspiring. Because we all come at these crossroads in our life, whether personally or professionally, where we have to make these big choices. And your conversation today really proves that though it's hard work and though it takes a toll on you, but that is the way that we need to follow if we truly want to be fulfilled in what we are doing. So thank you for sharing so generously with all of us, and yeah, hope to have you back here very soon, Purnima. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much, Pia. It's a great pleasure.